And this is one of the Fangoria International titles. And I picked this one up because Jeffrey Combs is in it, and I love his work. He's an amazing actor. Most of these films kind of look like, they could be good or could be bad. This one, I'm going to say, is kind of in between. It was good. And all these, I think, have trailers for all the other films on them. And so I got to kind of get a sample of some of the other ones. The Haunting looks really good. If I pick up any more of these, I'll probably pick up that one. But this movie wasn't too bad. It's about a crazy lady that owned an orphanage, killed a bunch of kids, and then later they turn it into a haunted house. And Jeffrey Combs plays the haunted house proprietor. And again, his performance is the reason to watch this movie. This movie wasn't super bad, wasn't super great. It was just okay, in my opinion. And during my vacation, my wife and I took a 2-day trip to Chicago, which is where this movie is set, and throughout most of it, it's set in the projects of Cabrini Green, which I stayed just south of Cabrini Green, which when I stayed in Chicago. And what I've heard on the documentary on this DVD is that the projects in Cabrini Green were demolished probably 5-10 years after this movie was made. It's based off of a Clive Barker story. This movie really showcases Tony Todd and what a great actor he is. A great movie. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. It's great to see, horror icons of different cultures and skin color. I think it's great to have an ebony slasher, that's such highly regarded. And again, Tony Todd's just an amazing actor, and I love watching all of his movies. Haven't had a chance to watch this yet. Outpost. My father-in-law happened to find one copy at Big Lots, so he told me about it, and I went back and I had to find this copy because it looked like militaries and Nazi zombies. I figured, how can you go wrong for $3? I kind of skimmed through it, just kind of check it out. It looks like there's some cool stuff in here. I'll have to kind of give it a good, solid viewing, and who knows, maybe I'll come back and let you know how good or bad it was. But it looks like it'll probably be at least decent. The second Hatchet has recently come out in theaters around Halloween time. I hadn't bought the first one yet. This is the R edition of it, but I think I've seen the unrated version on Netflix, and I really couldn't notice that much of a difference between the two cuts. Still bloody as hell for an R cut, and again, great movie. And the gore is definitely great in the movie, but the story and the actors are really great in this movie, so that's what makes it good too. Again, Tony Todd's in this movie, small part, but great neo slasher flick if you haven't checked it out yet. In terms of like Laid to Rest and The Hills Run Red, I would say after you've seen those two, see that one. I think that Hatchet has gotten a little too much hype compared to some of the other movies, but it's definitely a good movie, and I'm looking forward to seeing the second one. And I got this the same time I got Daybreakers because it was on sale. Hocus Pocus. It's a kids movie that features witches and Bette Midler, which Bette Midler on my enjoyment scale is on the bottom rung pretty much, but and Sarah Jessica Parker too. They're not actresses that I typically enjoy watching, but they're great in this movie. I think they play good witches. I think this is some of their best This movie is the best performances of both Sarah Jessica Parker and Bette Midler from what I've seen, because they're over the top witches. Also, a young Thora Birch is in this movie, and this takes place in Salem. It's a good kids movie, and interesting little factoid. There's a zombie character in the movie that cut. And interestingly enough, there's a zombie character in this movie that's played by Doug Jones of Hellboy fame, who we all know played Abe Sapien. Also around Halloween, picked up this 3-pack of movies, which is technically a 4-pack, because one of the movies is a double feature disc of Poltergeist 2 and 3. But this is the Amityville Horror remake, The Legend of Hell House, the original classic haunted house movie, and Poltergeist 2 and 3. Amityville Horror remake, I saw it when it came out in theaters. Not bad for a remake, I thought. Again, it's riffing on a classic, so it's substandard in the sense that it's a remake. Legend of Hell House, classic haunted house film. If you're a fan of Skinny Puppy, uh, this movie they sample from quite a bit. So if you're a fan of Skinny Puppy and you haven't seen The Legend of Hell House yet, check it out. I mean, it's what you can't see in the movie that makes it so scary, and the performance of the actors and the actresses make it a convincing and believable performance. Poltergeist 2 and 3, I'd seen the movies a long time ago when I was really little, and they're not bad. Another interesting factoid, since I spent some time in Chicago um, a couple weeks ago, is Poltergeist 3 is actually filmed in Chicago, and I didn't realize that until I was skimming through the third one again after I bought this. So that was an interesting little fact, I thought. And I'm going to cut this out while I'm straightening up my disc because I don't want to have a toppling tower of shit fall here. And I bought this at Walmart for $5. Alright, cut. And I got this at Walmart also for $5. Most of these movies I'm probably not going to like. But Skeleton Man, I heard it's a really bad movie, but I saw pictures of the costume online and I kind of skimmed through it. It's really low budget, really low production value, like I'm going to say softcore production value. And, the Skeleton Man costume's cool. It's essentially like a guy that looks like the Grim Reaper. The backstory's kind of cool, and Michael Rooker's in it. It's not as bad as people are making it out to be. It's not a great movie by any stretch, but it's not, I'm not going to say it's unwatchable. Another score at Half Price Books, and I think this particular movie or collection of movies was only like $7. Comes in a nice hard tin, which has a box in it. I don't know why they do that with the 2 DVDs in the box. But I like the nice sturdy tin. These are some classics. There's a couple of other movies, like it looks like an Arabian kind of movie in the desert called Blood and Sand, and we have the Mark of Zorro, which who doesn't like Zorro? Zorro's great. But the real gems on this are the original Silent Hunchback of Notre Dame with Lon Chaney, the Lon Chaney, not Lon Chaney Jr., his son, but the Lon Chaney, the original, the Phantom of the Opera. Great classic movie. And the silent Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. In fact, the pronunciation of, most people say Jekyll, but from what I understand, it's actually supposed to be Jekyll. And most everyone calls him Jekyll, which Jekyll, tomato, tomato, I really don't care. And I'm going to cut that out too because I'm rambling. But it also has the silent Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is actually cool. It's one of the best adaptations of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Really enjoy it. I can't wait to watch it all the way through. I've skimmed it for the most part, and the effects and the acting are great. Classic silent film era acting and effects. Great addition to the collection. And I bought this at Best Buy for $20. And a lot of these movies on here are actually duplicates for me. But the movies that were not duplicates were films I'm like, okay, I've looked at like individual releases of these films several times. Almost bought them but didn't. So I'm glad that they released this because it has a bunch of movies on it. 50 movies that, and some of them I haven't seen. Some of them are first time Region 1 copy for me, like Death Warmed Up, which I have a Region 2 copy of, but not a Region 1 until I bought this. So I was happy about that. So many great movies. Has Devil's Nightmare, which is a duplicate for me, but a great movie. Dr. Jekyll and the Werewolf, or Dr. Jekyll and the Werewolf, with Paul Naschy, where he plays both Mr. Hyde and the werewolf in the same film. Very cool. The Eerie Midnight Horror Show, that's a weird one. The Embalmer is also a duplicate for me, but a great old black and white Italian horror film. Fangs of the Living Dead, another duplicate, but a great vampire film.